You're good. Yeah.
Okay. My name is Richard Dien Winfield. I've been living in Athens, Georgia since 1982, when I got a job teaching philosophy, where I've been, and I'm still teaching philosophy, except that as a state employee, I have to go on unpaid leave to run for statewide office. My wife, Sujata, is an immigration attorney. I'm also a member of the Communication Workers of America, organizing Local 3265, which is seeking to organize all state employees in the state university system. I ran for Congress in a deep red district, like your congressional district, facing the same kind of obstacles. I was identified by the nation as the first candidate supporting a federal job guarantee. Now I'm back again, once more going on unpaid leave, this time to take the struggle to fulfill our social rights and unchain our democracy to Washington in what obviously is one of the most important races in the nation, because our Senate races are going to be determining control of the Senate, and whoever may be the president is not going to be able to do much unless the right people with the right policies are sitting in the Senate. And you know that in that race, no vote will be wasted. No one can afford to stand on the sidelines. Stacey Abrams showed that even with voter suppression, we are neck and neck. So it's possible to win. And as we all know, this is one of the most crucial elections in our lifetime. And I think we have to be honest, it's not enough to turn positions blue. We in Georgia have experienced, maybe more than others, what has happened when Democrats have been in power, both nationally and statewide, and have failed to take the measures necessary to remove racial and gender disadvantage, to stop the decline in worker empowerment, and to stop the increasing income and wealth disadvantage, which has reached such a stage that it is imperiling our very democracy and fueling anti-democratic nationalist movements. Now, the answers are not hidden from us. It is time for solutions. And the key part of the solution was very much part of the Democratic agenda when, in 1944, FDR made a call for a new social bill of rights. The call was ignored. The call was renewed by Martin Luther King in his final campaign, the Poor People's Campaign, which renewed the call for attending to the social rights that our Constitution ignores, without which social disadvantage cannot be removed, without which we can't take care of our families or be able to participate as equals in self-government. Now, these are the rights to a job at fair wages, the right to health care, the right to decent housing, the right to access to education at all levels, the right to legal representation of all sorts. And I want to focus on the solutions to two of these rights, because I don't have that much time. But on my website, Winfield for Senate, I provide what I think are the real policy solutions to fulfill these rights and make our country genuinely righteous, not just a great world power, but a nation that fulfills all of the freedoms to which an individual is warranted. Now, the first right in question, which is in a sense the anchor of all the rest, is the true right to work. The right of anyone who wants to work to have a job at a fair wage. Now, this is the basis of economic independence and security, because not only do 95% of us seek our livelihood as employees, but for those who do not, they know full well if they fail as entrepreneurs or landlords, what they have left to rely upon is the labor power we all have with the abolition of slavery. Now, even in conditions of low unemployment, we're still talking about millions of Americans who don't have work, millions more who have part-time jobs rather than the full-time jobs they want, and many millions more who've stopped looking for jobs. Currently, despite so-called low unemployment, 40% of Americans who are of working age are not in the job market. Now, it's obviously transformative for those who are seeking employment to have a federal job guarantee, whereby this right is enforced by the government offering employment to anyone who cannot find a job, to provide those kinds of goods and services that can be organized both by the federal government, state government, and local government, to provide for the needs that are not being met in the marketplace. That involves not only refurbishing our ailing infrastructure, not only helping make the transition to green energy, not only building broadband access for everyone, not only providing public transportation as needed, not only providing the human services in healthcare and education, but also to bring the arts of all sorts, such as an institution as this, to the public, and put anyone, no matter what their qualifications, to work serving the community. Without this, we cannot put an end to the school to prison pipeline. We cannot put a brake on mass incarceration and recidivism. We cannot stop the ugly plight of veterans who are homeless and jobless. But it is transformative for the rest of us who have jobs, because it lifts the fear of firing. We can stand up on the job for our rights. We can stand up against sexual oppression at work, racial discrimination at work, employer malfeasance. And this is also a key in order to have a new Green Deal, because we have to ensure that all of those people who may lose jobs when we shut down the fossil fuel production and consumption industry, as we must by 2030, that they will be guaranteed employment at a fair wage. The same holds true for being able to have comprehensive immigration reform. Only with a federal job guarantee can we ensure all Americans that when we offer legal status to all the undocumented who've been here a year, no one's livelihood will suffer. And this is also a key to establishing true reproductive freedom, which is not just a matter of having the right to abortion. It's also a matter of having the ability to have the children you want, because you have a basis of economic opportunity and security. Now, this is going to be a key to solving our education problems by lifting the scourge of poverty. And by the way, when I'm speaking about a fair wage, I don't mean a living wage of $15 an hour, which, as we all know, is not enough to make it in any American city according to the government's own policies. It's also a minimum wage that does not do anything to prevent increasing wealth and wage inequality from rising. What we need is a fair wage which goes up, keeps pace with the rising prosperity of the nation. And if we include not just inflation, but productivity gains in adjusting the minimum wage, it comes to over $20 an hour. And that's what we want to think of, and have equivalent replacement income for retirees and the disabled. Now, I want to speak about what is the capstone of all of the various rights, which will include having single-payer health care, getting rid of evictions and foreclosures and utility turn-offs by having mandatory rescheduling payments, having federal funding of education, and so forth. But the key to being able to exercise any of our rights is that we have fair access to legal resources, that money should in no way determine our fate in the courts. But it does, despite the Sixth Amendment, which guarantees us representation in criminal cases. We know that the implementation of that right, with legal aid lawyers, court-appointed attorneys, pro bono work, is not sufficient to ensure everyone the dream team to which we are entitled. And we have no representation in civil cases, which are absolutely crucial for standing up against sexual harassment on the job, against racial discrimination, against problems at work, healthcare institutions, etc. So we need to have a legal care for all system, like a single-payer health insurance, where you can go to any lawyer of your choice for advice and legal representation in criminal and civil cases, and in that way, you can fight for your rights. And we have to combine that with getting money out of the legal system, get rid of cash bail, get rid of for-profit prisons, for-profit probation services, get rid of all the fees and putting people in jail because they don't pay fees. We have to instead make us truly equal before the law. When we combine that with the fulfillment of our other social rights, we're talking about a new birth of freedom, where we unchain our democracy from entrenched racial and gender disadvantage. We put a halt to the blockages on opportunity that history has imposed upon us. And I ask you to join me in making history this November. We can make America righteous, not just a great world power. And nothing is stopping us from doing it but our own greed, callousness, and political cowardice. Now, my name is Richard Dien Winfield. I have a website, winfieldforsenate.com, WINFIELD Senate, SENATE.com. You can sign up as a volunteer. I, of course, need donations. I don't have any private money of my own to put into the race, let alone the $20 million that Leffler was going to attempt to buy the election with. So I need you to think about this, and I need us all to think about what we are standing for as a party. Because I've been involved in the Democratic Party for a long time, and I have to say frankly that what I almost never see at any meetings of the Democratic Party, locally or statewide, is any real debate about what we stand for and where we should be heading. So I hope you'll ask questions and not give me an easy time. Thank you.
Before we get to the questions, without objection, we do have a second Senate candidate has come here. Without objection, we'll pull him back up into the agenda. Sorry, there you are, Marquis.